I didn't want to look back on my life and think like, what if I had just, taken a step? What if I had just formed that group? And what if I had just, talked to people a little bit more about points? And what if we hadn't taken that trip, And
Welcome to the MoneyFitMD show. I'm Dr. Latifat, the founder of MoneyFitMD.
We want to change the narrative.
Where women physicians use.
My job is to let you know that's going to be. I have to surround myself with people that are doing crazy.
All right, guys, you are in for a treat. If you are a human, and I love women physicians, but if you're a human and a women physician, and you've seen people talking about points, credit card points, and you're like, oh my goodness, this stuff is so overwhelming. Or you're like someone that wants to travel more, but because you're like Dr. Latifa, keeps talking about invest your money, invest your money, invest your money. But how can I accomplish my travel goals, my dream life goals without paying all the cash in my pocket? Okay, you're going to love this episode because I have an awesome guest that's going to be sharing some nuggets that has not only helped her, but many other people that she's worked with. And you get to enjoy that treat right now so that 2025 and beyond can be the years where you start to accomplish your travel goals. So, welcome, Courtney.
thanks for having me. So excited to be here and be talking about one of my favorite things. So
How excited are you to share about points with the world? Because I know this is literally your love language.
yeah, it's something I've loved for the last few years now, and that's why I actually started the podcast so that way I could talk to people ad nauseum about points and travel awards and people who wouldn't get tired of listening to me chatter along about award travel and credit card points.
So I have to say, I did not know about credit card points until maybe 7 years ago. And when I started my financial journey, it actually was a big part of taking small trips. I wasn't doing anything fancy, but the little credit card points that I was accumulating could pay for a night hotel here, a night hotel here. But I'm curious to hear about you. How did you find out about it? Did your parents teach you about points? Did med school class teach you about points?
I wish I'd known all those things when I started med school, and like all those expenses that come up during med school would have been great to actually earn points and be able to use that for travel and getting interviews and things. But at the time, I didn't know about using credit card points and miles. I actually started unintentionally with the Capital One card early in college that my dad had me on as a cosigner and eventually had my own. I used those points for trip erase for a trip that we took probably 10 years later when I was like, oh, I've got all these points. I should do something with them. I think it wasn't until a couple of years ago that I really became intentional with using credit card points and miles. Got the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I can take all these points, and I was like, oh, I can transfer them over to a Hyatt, and I can get 3 free nights at this amazing place for $0. Okay, cool. And then the more you know and the more you start doing, the more you realize just how incredible these opportunities can be, and that's all she wrote. So went down the rabbit hole, and here I am.
So let me ask you, for those that are listening right now, what are some of the favorite trips you've done, either for yourself or the people that you've worked with have shared with you about their experience using credit card points?
Yeah, so I think probably some of my favorite trips so far have been my solo trip to Miraval in Arizona, which was very easy. It was easy to transfer my points over to Hyatt. It was probably one of my first intentional redemptions. It was a solo trip, like the first trip I'd taken as an adult, post kids, to just unwind. It was a quick flight to Tucson, Arizona, which cost me, less than $100 on Southwest. And it was just an amazing experience to go there and, have spa credits that they give you, whether you book points or cash. And, you're going to dinners all inclusive. You don't have to worry about anything, and it cost me nothing but the points that I earned for spend that I already had to make, so
Oh, wow. And I love that you did a solo trip without your kids after kids. That
yeah,
sounds easy and refreshing by itself.
it was, and I think a lot of times once you do have kids and a family, you kind of put yourself on the back burner, and, I've spent the last couple of years just trying to prioritize my health, but also empowering other physicians and other professionals or anyone who will listen to just prioritize yourself and your wellness and, earn points to take these meaningful trips, so it was a great start.
You mentioned something earlier. You said you earned points using spending that you would normally have spent. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because part of the concern that people have when it comes to points is if I'm doing this, does not mean that I will be overspending and finding ways to spend so I can earn a point. Then what's the point then? Because I might as well just use my money to buy the ticket instead of spending more money to collect points so I can travel.
Right, which is what a lot of people do. They just say, "You know what? I'm not gonna do this. One, it's a lot of work. I have to have all these credit cards. I'm gonna be racking up debt, and, like, it doesn't make any sense for me." I think the first thing to remember when using credit cards is that you have to use them responsibly, right? So I swore off credit cards when after college, after residency, I was like, "You know what? I have, like, this much amount of, like, credit card debt, and, the interest is, like, 22%, and, like, it's just eating away, like, everything I'm bringing in." So, I paid off all my credit cards, and I decided that I was never gonna have a credit card again. Then I went on a trip to Jamaica, and American Airlines was off said, "Hey, you sign up for this card, and we'll give you these points, and you can, book this trip." And I was like, "Okay." So, on my trip high, I signed up for another credit card, again, became intentional about using my points. And then I realized that you could use credit cards responsibly. You pay them off every month in full, like, my credit cards are set to automatically pay the balance, so I don't pay any interest, I don't pay any annual fees, I have no, ongoing credit card debt, and I have a lot of expenses, right? In medicine, we have a lot of expenses. I have licensing fees that I have to pay, like, I need to pay that today, actually. You've got malpractice insurance you have to pay, you've got, I've just finished my ACLS, ATLS research. Uh, some people have rent to pay, there are certain credit cards where you can pay your rent. I pay my utilities. I you know, we you've got Netflix subscriptions, like, whatever it is, car insurance, all that gets paid through the credit card, and then I just go and pay off my credit card every month. And so instead of getting no money back or, earning cash back, I earn points, and I can use those points to actually book travel. I think it's important to emphasize that it doesn't have to be points if you don't like to travel, you can still earn cash back, and I think a cashback card is still better than using a debit card or just paying cash, but I think points most of the points people will agree are far superior if if you like to travel. But yeah, you can use your credit cards to pay for things, and you earn points that you can use for travel, and instead of, spending $4,000 to go to Mexico for you and your family for the summer, you can use your points, and that $4,000 can go towards paying down your student loans or, investing, whatever it is that you would rather spend, that extra chunk of money on. So,
When you started your journey, because I know you're married, was your husband on partner on board with the credit card system, or was he maybe he was already started on it and you joined late? Like, what's the relationship like when it comes to the usage of credit cards and credit card points accumulation?
yeah, sure. I think he's still a little, like, little hesitant. I have a lot of cards in my wallet. He has his main 3. I just convinced him to sign up for the Chase Sapphire, preferred card that came out because the offer was there. I'm like, "Hey, you don't have a Visa card," and he's like, the last year he's been telling me, like, "I'm not getting any more cards." But we took a trip to Singapore in January. We flew business class for, like, less than $11, one way from LA to Singapore, and I think that kind of, changed his mind about things a little bit. So, I think you have to show people sometimes, you
You
know?
have to show people. I'm not crazy like the true fans. I am moderate. And I remember when we traveled this was during our year travel around the world. And credit card points were not part of our strategy, although I do tell people that it's something that you can put into play to help decrease the burden of your travel. But what we decided was that we wanted to use our credit card points for business class for the entire family on our trip from Curacao to, I think it was to London. And it was pretty awesome because my husband was like amazed. And I picked that moment to let him know that next time I talk to you about credit card, you better not complain.
Right, right.
So, no, I agree with you. Sometimes you have to show, and it was like, I will never complain again. Now it doesn't complain. It may take an extra deep breath.
Right.
Did you see a major change between before that trip and after that trip, or not
No,
really?
I think again, he once he kind of heard about it, and then he realized, like, "Okay, well, what do we have to lose? It's not hurting my credit score, it's actually improving it. I'm earning money for stuff that I'm spending." He's very responsible when it comes to using credit cards, so he pays his off, like, as soon as he puts the spend on it, like, it's being paid off. So, I think we both have, like, really good habits. His are probably better than mine, about using credit cards, and I think we have an understanding. I don't think again, he's not in any of the points groups, he doesn't, like, go crazy with it, but I think he understands, like, the ability to use these things to travel. I think part of it was that we were spending a lot of money on travel anyway, and, we he's from Trinidad, we would spend go there to visit family, and for 2 of us, it was fine, and then it's like, okay, now the kids are older and we have to pay for them. So, it's $1,000, round trip for each person just to go for him to go home. And I think he was like, "Okay, well, if we're spending all this money on travel and you wanna keep traveling, we've gotta find a way to do it." So this was me finding a way to be able to do those things.
Sounds like you must have told him that too. This is me trying to find a way for us because I had to
Exact
travel. That's
exactly.
funny. Have you always had the travel bug, or is that something that developed over time?
Yeah, I think so. I'm from Las Vegas and California's close, so we would take a lot of road trips growing up. I think I went on a plane maybe a couple of times. And then in med school, 4th year med school, I actually got my first passport and I went and spent a month in Uganda and I went to Trinidad for Carnival the first time and then I was in Costa Rica. I was just kind of all over the place and I was like that was like my ticket to like seeing all these amazing things that I've been missing out on. And after that, I just knew that I had to keep going, so
You were sold.
yeah, yeah.
For those that are listening right now, what are some of the things that you would say would suggest that you're not someone that should be doing this? Because you've mentioned a couple of them, but I want to make sure people are clear before we go even deeper.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think if you know that you can't use credit cards responsibly, and you know you're not gonna be able to pay off your debt in full every month, this game isn't for you because credit card interest rates are high, and any balance that you have sitting there is gonna earn it I mean, that's like 20% every month that they're adding to your bill. So if you can't pay your credit cards in full, then this game probably isn't for you. And then maybe a cashback card might be a better idea. I think cashback cards are better than nothing again. I do realize that a lot of people don't like to travel. You may not travel as much. And if so, then again, credit card points may not be for you either. But for the majority of people, even if you're just going to take one trip a year, you can use credit cards responsibly. You've got credit, you've got good credit, so you can actually apply and be approved for these cards, then this is a game that I would definitely jump into. And you don't need 10 cards, you don't need 20 cards in your wallet. That's extreme, and I think that's a big challenge for a lot of people. I think a lot of people shy away from the game because they think that, they have to be points crazy like the rest of us. But I think if you just have one card, so I think you just sign up for just one card, just take a look and right now, the Chase Sapphire card is a really good card to look at. It's very easy to use. Chase points are easy to transfer to Hyatt, so it's a very easy starter card. And I think again, once you see like the value in this, then like you don't look back. We went to Costa Rica last year and we booked rooms for like 25,000 points per night. So if you signed up for like the Chase Sapphire Preferred just had a recent sign up bonus again. It was like 100,000 points for like a $4,000 spend for $95. So you pay $95, you buy things that you're gonna buy normally. Maybe you've got kids' camps to pay for, you've got, again, anything you can think of. You've got bills to pay, you've gotta pay your utility bill, you could even prepay it if you want. But you spend that $4,000 in 3 months, and now you've got 100,000 points. 100,000 points would get you 4 nights at the Andaz in Costa Rica. Andaz, Costa Rica runs you like $1,000 a night. So $4,000 saved by just signing up for this $95 card. If you had a cashback card, that cashback card would take you like and say the cashback card earns you like 2 times back. That's going to mean that you're gonna have to spend $200,000 on that card to earn the same amount of points or cashback that you would get for spending $95 to sign up for this one card. So, I mean, there's just a lot of value in earning points for travel if you value travel and value having meaningful experiences with your families or friends. So
Great, thank you. And I think you kind of went into the next question I was going to ask, which is if someone is starting out, they're like, okay, Courtney, you've convinced me that if I use this responsibly, that it's not going to mess up my credit score. You're saying that if I'm someone that likes travel, or maybe I want a points or whatever, cash back card, this is still an option. What is the first step you would say that someone should take?
I think the first step is to take a look at your credit now. Take a look at your spending and see how much you're spending. Do you know that I spend $10,000, in a month to pay for these things? And then make sure that you're eligible for one, you want to check your credit and make sure that your credit score is high enough that you're eligible for these cards, but you want to make sure that you're able to pay off your credit cards responsibly. So I think that's the first check. And I think it helps with, like, your finances as well to know, where your money's going and how much you're spending each month, but it also helps for credit card points.
Okay. So now I've looked, I'm like, I spend $7,000 a month on expenses. What do I do next after that? Because
So
now
then
I'm thinking in dollars, but I don't know what to do.
right. So I think it varies for every person, and so that's why I do offer, like, credit card consultations because everything doesn't fit every person. I usually have, like, an algorithm for deciding which card a person should get next. So maybe if you're eligible for business cards, if you have a small business, you have a side gig, anything like that, then you may be eligible for business cards, and I would start that route. And then if you are eligible for business cards, then you can look at, like, the Chase Ink business cards, which are great starter cards, low to no annual fee cards, and make it easy for you to, again, to transfer your points out so you can get amazing redemptions. If you're not eligible for business cards and you're looking for, like, a personal card, again, Chase is a good place to start for a lot of reasons, which could take up a whole podcast. Um, but I think Chase, the Sapphire Reserve and the Sapphire Preferred cards are good places to start. Maybe you just want one card or you want a simple card system. Capital One is another system that you can look into. The Venture X card doesn't have a crazy high annual fee. There are very few cards within the system. So if you know I'm not gonna go points crazy, but I want a good card that's gonna earn me 2 times back on everything, that's a good place to start. So
I love it. So very personalized. Those are general guidelines. And I'm a Chase girl as well. Like that's where I've been banking forever. They used to be called Washington Mutual back in the day, and I've been with them since were they Washington Mutual became Chase, or did Chase buy Washington Mutual? One of the two. But anyways, I was Washington Mutual before and then became Chase. So I've been with them forever. So my credit cards been with them. I think I have one. No, I don't think I have one Citibank, but business wise, I'm Amex primarily and Chase Inc. because we do have multiple businesses. But yeah, I've always been a Chase girl. So I like that you like Chase.
yeah, yeah. I love Amex too, so I dip in Amex, and I love them for a lot of other reasons, but I think for someone who's just getting started, especially if you're, like, a little squeamish about getting a lot of credit cards, you don't want these huge annual fee cards, I think those are good places to start, but Amex is also a great place.
One of the things that I've seen you talk about is physicians. I know you work with non-physicians as well, but physicians that have their CME.
Right?
How can this be integrated into how they use their points? Is there any relationship between both of those things at all?
Well, I think they're all a way to be able to travel more. A lot of times if you're booking CME, I don't necessarily recommend using your points because it's something that can be reimbursed by your employer or it can be written off on your taxes, in which case you just want to, use cash. Cash is king in those places. But still, when you you're paying for the trip or you're paying for the course, make sure you're using your credit card so that it's a points earning opportunity and it's something that again can be reimbursed by your employer if it's CME eligible, or if you don't have an employer to pay for those things and you're self-employed, you can write it off on your taxes as a, personal development expense. So,
I love it. You know, it's funny as you're talking, I'm reminded that I've had some experiences where maybe somebody wanted to sign up for our money school or they wanted to join us for our in-person event and they're like, can you can I pay in like 5 days? I'm getting a card. It's coming. It's like it makes I've had that more than once, just FYI. But
yeah,
because I get it, right? And I do the same as well. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm paying 25 grand for this coaching program.
right.
Let me I know you said 24 hours, but can you give me 5 days? I gotta wait for the chest meal to
Yeah,
come.
you know?
And that's been strategic, right? Because again, this is an expense like you mentioned that I was gonna do. You have to look at the fees. Can you talk a little bit about that? How do you rationalize the fees on the credit cards?
Yeah, so I rationalize the fees by saying, "Hey, is this a card that I'm gonna get a lot of value out of, or does it have perks that I can, like, get the fees back for?" So, probably, like, one of my, like, workhorse of a cards right now is the Amex Business Gold Card. It has, like, a $395 annual fee, but, like, you get $20 back at office supply stores every month, so every month I take my, gold cards and I go and I get my $20 gift card, so that's, $240 back for that $395 annual fee. It's gonna give me 4 times back on any restaurants
Restaurants.
that I go out to. It gives me 4 times back on gas. If I go and buy any, like, new computer equipment or podcasting equipment, it's gonna give me office supply credit, so I just make sure that it's a card that I can get some value out of, and every year I'll go through my cards and say, "Am I using this card? Am I getting any value out of it?" The sub is usually, like, enough to be, like to justify that whole, because if they're gonna give me 200,000 points, that's, at least $4,000 worth of travel for $395, I'll take it. But if it's a card that I'm like, "Okay, well, I got the sub, I'm not really using this card as much, I don't need it anymore. Let me either see if I can get a retention bonus by contacting the credit card company saying, 'Hey, I'm not using this card as much, but I'm thinking about canceling it. Is it possible to get more points for this?'" Sometimes they say yes. If so, then great. I'll hold on to the card for another year if, again, it makes sense. If not, I may just cancel the card or downgrade it to a card that's, like, 0 annual fee. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. By the way, when we started the interview, I know I did not do a great job of having you introduce yourself. We went straight for the points. But for those that are listening, tell us more about you. Who are you? Outside of points, what do you do? Tell us about fabulous Dr. Courtney.
I love that, we got straight to the point. But yeah, so I am an emergency medicine physician. I live in Las Vegas with my husband and my 2 kids. I'm still working full time. I am also a podcaster and a points travel strategist, which means I help people book trips using their points. I offer point strategy consultations where I teach people how to maximize their point rewards, either for themselves or their businesses. And then I show them how to spend it for that big trip that they're planning. So I wear many hats.
I love it. And what's the name of your podcast?
It is Prescription to Travel MD. So I have podcasts on Apple, Spotify. I'm also on YouTube. I have Prescription to Travel MD communities where I also offer tips and tricks and travel hacks to help people get to their next destination. You can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. There's a physicians or doctors only doctors lounge, but there's also a group that's available for pretty much anyone who's interested in points travel. So
I love it. Okay. We'll make sure we get the links as well so we can put them on there and share it. Okay. One more question that I have for you, because I get questions about the money school. Like Latifa, tell us about the money school, and you're one of our fabulous members. So pretend that I'm not here and just tell us, tell people about what is it about the money school? What do we do there? Why did you join? Whatever you want to say. I'm going to plug my ears and you can tell them the truth.
the truth. Well, I joined the money school because I knew that I wanted to reach my highest potential and really just be able to live my best life. I think I oscillate a little bit between, like, white coat investor, save, 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 retire early, and like YOLO. And I needed a way to be able to do all the things and not, still be able to invest and enjoy my money responsibly. So I think that was part of the motivating factor. I did a few of the quick, like, boot camps that you had and realized that I was really getting a lot of value just from your teaching and just from, like, all the things that you have to offer, and I think we were talking earlier about, like, the ceilings that we set for ourselves and, just being in the community, you realize that there are no ceilings, and it really, like, it's expanded, like, this even just my points points was a hobby for me, and I think through, like, some of the coaching, I've been able to, develop this podcast that I've had for, like, the last year and just figuring out ways to offer my services to other people and realize just how much value that I can bring both in my, like, W-2 job, but also, like, in this hobby that's now become, a business and a lifestyle for me. So that's why I joined the money school, and that's why I'm so glad to be a part of this community of so many, like, amazing women physicians who are, on the same path as me.
I love that. And I have to say that when you decide, you move. Do you know that about yourself? That when you make a decision, you actually take action. And I'm curious because there are people that are listening to you right now where maybe they struggle with that. They struggle with either not making decisions or not taking actions after making decisions. I remember when we are talking about even your points, because yes, you had been enjoying it. And one of those sessions you had been considering starting, and literally, even on the call, you took action right away and all of that. So, any tips for someone that's listening right now, and maybe they're whatever decision it's about, getting support for point strategy or getting support for their money and removing the money blinders they have and building their wealth, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I don't know, I think I'm probably better at taking action when I'm at my job because, emergency medicine, you don't get a chance to decide, you just have to go, like, somebody's coming in, they're crashing, this is happening, like, make a decision and, move. And I feel like I didn't do that as much in my own personal life, because it wasn't life and death. I just I could kinda, like, perseverate on, like, the idea for a little bit. And then I would take baby steps, but it take me a while to get there. And I don't know if you remember, like, we had this conversation, like, before, like, probably a year before I joined the money school when I was, like, thinking about it, and you're like, "You know what? Just make a decision. Just decide. It can be yes or no." And at the time, I was like, "You know what?" She said, "Don't take too long. Make the decision." And so I said, "You know what? Now is not the right time for me." And I made the decision and took, again, baby steps to get there, but I was still doing things. But I got to a point where it's like you get this analysis paralysis and you don't make a decision and you lose time and you lose momentum and money is time and all these things. So I got to a point where it's like, you know what? Even if I just make a decision, it may not be the right decision, but I'm doing something and eventually it'll all work out. So you just make the decision. You make the decision, you join the money school, you make the decision and you get the credit card that's going to start you on your points journey, but just decide to do it and just do it now before you're ready.
How has that shift been helpful for you in your own life?
I think it's been helpful just because I don't spend as much time, like, in my head. Well, I still spend a lot of time in my head, but I think I'm a lot more like, "Let's just get it done. Let's just see what happens." And then you realize that you can make good decisions, and you start to trust yourself a little bit more, and then you make decisions that aren't always good decisions, and you still trust that you can pivot from that decision and everything will still work out the way it's supposed to, versus just, like, sitting there and waiting, and then a year from now, you're still going, like, "I still haven't made a decision. I still haven't moved," you know? You're still
That's so
constipated.
good. You still constipated, you gotta poop. That is so good. And the reason why I say it's so good is there's no one that is better positioned to help give advice than someone that has been through it. And when with the podcast now, we have over 200 episodes. And when I've interviewed people and looked at so many success stories, one of the most common skill that is incredibly important is the ability to make decisions. And so when people learn how to make decisions, their life changes because that's one of the keys to changing things, right? And like you said, you have to be willing to make mistakes. You're doing your due diligence, of course, but it's a risk. But the biggest risk is not making decisions and being that person that at the end of their life, they tell stories about the things they thought about doing, but never actually did.
Yeah, yeah, and I knew that I didn't wanna be that person, like, I didn't wanna look back on my life and think, like, "What if I had just, taken a step? What if I had just formed that group? And what if I had just, talked to people a little bit more about points? And what if we hadn't taken that trip?" And so,
And
I'm
you
living
and I
life
have
with
that
purpose.
shared experience too about, losing parents at a relatively young age. And I've shared a lot on my podcast, but I'm just curious for you, how has that impacted how you live your life, how you work? Because, life is not all about like being on the ocean 24/7 a day. It would get really, really old soon. But like, how has that impacted the decisions that you've made about your life and how you live your life?
Yeah, it definitely changed, like, my whole outlook on living my life. So, I lost my dad, in 2021. He, went in for surgery, thought everything was gonna be fine, like, he'd never been sick in his life, and, he came home that night, and then he was gone. And this was, like, a year before he was getting ready to retire, And, we had all these plans. We were gonna plan his, like, retirement party in Mexico, and, my dad wasn't a big traveler. He'd be like, "You guys go, I'll stay home, I'll be fine." But we'd taken a few trips where and every time he would go, he always loved it. So I'm like, "Just wait, a year from now, we're planning our retirement party." And we never got the chance to have that retirement party. We didn't get the chance to do all the things, all these dreams of what he would do after he was done, and he lived his life. I think he lived a good life, and he showed us a lot about what it means to work hard and to, live a good life, but he also showed me just how fleeting time is, and I knew that I didn't wanna work until I was, like, 65 and then aim to do all the things that I want to do now. So I'm still gonna do those things when I turn 65, but maybe I won't be able to, hike to the top of Machu Picchu or, you know, be able to, travel for long periods of time. Who knows what type of health I'll be in? Who knows what my financial situation will be like? So I just decided that I was gonna live for now. I was going to take the trips that I wanted to take. I was going to take this big risks in life, investing and joining coaching groups and all the things. I'm gonna do it now because, it feels right now and not wait until later until I have more time or I have more money or till the kids are gone or, you know, whatever it may be. Just live your life now.
Thanks for sharing that. I don't think people think much about how the things that they do changes them. So, for example, Courtney, that is traveled, launching businesses, doing podcasts, joining coaching programs that fit the goals that she wants. That version of you is also the version of you that's going to parent your kids. They're getting a different teacher. It's the difference between having, been in I don't know, community college and having an experienced teacher versus having like someone that's like green eye, blue tail. It changes you. And I don't think we really talk much about the impact of how the version of you that could slow down your progress and do all those things at the age of 65 is different from the version of you that's doing them now, which means that your 10-year-old, your 12-year-old, for however old the kids are, your 5-year-old, get to experience a different mother, which means they get to be a different 8-year-old. I don't think we talk much about that, but I think that's something to keep in mind because it does matter.
It does, and your kids are always watching. They're always aware of what you're doing even when you don't think about it. So we bought an Airbnb, we fixed it up, we did all these things, the kids are in there and they're painting and they're doing all the things with us. And then, every now and then, like, we talk about it, we talk about, investing and making, intentional use of our money, but also being able to do the fun things, being able to go on vacation and why we're able to do the things that we do. And I think I'm trying to teach my kids to be grateful and instilling gratitude in them by showing them, hey, these you can't have these things, but you do have to work for it. It doesn't have to be hard work. You don't have to hustle, but you do have to put in work and nothing is going to just be handed to you. So I think I'm teaching them all those things and they're seeing the fruits of our labor, but they're also seeing, like, the work it takes, and, I see them the entrepreneurial wheels that are turning in their heads as they're like, "Hey, I can start a podcast, and I can start a YouTube channel, and, maybe I can do this. I wanna own a business, or I wanna set up a lemonade stand," just, like, little things that they're, like, picking up on. It's just so
Yeah.
important.
And you get to walk them on that journey and not shut it down because you don't have that mindset.
Right.
I see so many people that maybe in the money school, they're like, someone actually posted and said her son asked her about the S&P 500 and she could have a conversation with her kid about those things where she's like, couple months ago I would have shut that conversation down and gone away and ran away, right? And so there are those micro things that we don't think about, right?
Yeah.
The version of me that is traveled that will give an advice to my kid and not shut her down for wanting to go out of city for school, right? If all I've ever done is never leave California, I'm more likely to tell her that the world ends in California.
Right,
But now
right.
it's like you can go to school anywhere in the world. I mean, I want you clothes, and you probably want to be close so you can come eat at home sometimes. But I'm not lowering the ceiling that God hasn't placed over their head.
Right. Yeah.
So, well, thank you. Any last minute words, advice, suggestions, or tips that you want to share with our audience? And this has been so good, by the way. Thank you. I feel like it covered so many, people are so afraid of math that even when they talk about points, people have they put it in the same bucket as spreadsheets. And I
Yeah.
feel like we just had a humane conversation about how to use points even when you're just starting.
Yeah, yeah. I think thank you for so much for having me on, so that way I could kind of share some of this with so many people who are listening to your podcast, because I know I used to binge your podcast all the time, so I know how valuable the content was, and so I hope this adds some value to someone's life, and that someone can take something away. If it's one thing, just get started. Find a card that suits your needs. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about anything. But yeah, just get started. Pick a card, start spending on that card, pay off that card so that way you're not incurring any debt, and just see what doors it opens for you. I think you'll be surprised. And if you want to go down the rabbit hole and earn a lot of points, or you have a business that's can benefit from, maybe you're making large purchases and it can benefit from earning points for both yourself and your employees. I'm happy to help with that as well. If you have points already and you don't know how to spend them, feel free to reach out to me as well, because I'm happy to help you. So you don't have to do it all. That's the beauty of points. You can certainly learn it, and it's a fun hobby. And there are lots of people who are willing to help and teach, such as myself. But if you don't want to learn all these things and you just have points and you just want to earn the points and spend them, I'm happy to help with that too. So
Fantastic. So for all of your point needs, don't ask me, go talk to Courtney. And we're going to put the link to her podcast here so that if you want to be a listener, you can start learning how to. And I love that it's a lot about applying, how to apply this so that you can live the life that you want without having to choose between investing in tangible assets versus like investing in your life, which is what traveling is. You can have a cake and eat it. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being fabulous. And thank you for being a real life example of the importance of taking actions and taking actions fast. So thank you so much, Courtney.
all right, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Talk to you soon. And hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, make sure you go ahead and follow Courtney and take a copy of this, share it. You can text it, share it in your Facebook group, email it to your friends, your email list. The bottom line is we want more physicians to live life and practice medicine on their terms. And this is a part of it. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Goodbye.